Bangladesh has turned a page from the shadows of violence to what many are calling a festival of democracy. After months of political unrest and deadly upheaval of 2024, the nation has delivered a clear, decisive verdict through the ballot. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party, led by Tarique Rahman, is all set to form the next government after storming to a landslide victory in the 13th general elections. With counting complete across all 299 seats, the BNP and its allies have crossed the crucial two-third majority mark, underlining the emphatic mandate from people. This verdict also marks a historic political comeback. After 2 decades out of power, the BNP has returned to the center of Bangladesh's political stage with a thumping mandate. Tarique Rahman himself has secured victories from 2 constituencies, cementing his leadership and signaling a generational shift to the party as party prepares to chart Bangladesh's next chapter. The 13th general election in Bangladesh were unlike any other country or unlike anything Bangladesh has seen before as well. They were held in the shadow of deadly 2024 uprising that dismantled the old political order, and for the first time in decades without the towering figures of Sheikh Hasina or Khalida Zia on the ballot. But what truly set this election apart was not just what was missing out, but also what voters were asked to decide on. Bangladeshis voted twice. One vote was to choose their next prime minister. The other vote, equally consequential, was to approve the July Charter, a proposed roadmap to overhaul the country's governance structure. The nationwide referendum was conducted across 64 districts under tight security, as well as international observation. Early trends suggest a decisive endorsement, with over 65% voters backing the charter, cutting across urban and rural constituencies alike. The July Charter is a 28-page constitutional reform document which is signed by 25 political parties and the interim government led by Mohammad Yunus. Touted as the blueprint for Bangladesh's second republic, it seeks to prevent future concentration of power. The charter sharply curtails Prime Minister's authority, introduces a bicameral parliament, empowers the opposition, dilutes Article 70 and expands on women's representation. It restores a non-partisan caretaker government for elections, mandates paper ballots and restructures the Election Commission. The reform also strengthens judicial independence, redefines identity and rights, protect internet access and personal data, limit presidential pardon powers, and if ratified, the parliament will act as a constitutional reform council to complete the overhaul within 180 working days, marking Bangladesh's most significant constitutional shift since the 1991. The verdict has been far less kind to Jamaat-e-Islami. Despite contesting aggressively, Jamaat and its allies were restricted to a distant second. In a post-poll reaction, the party has alleged large-scale irregularities, also hinted at vote tampering, raising questions over the process, even as the public mandate appears to have firmly rejected its radical political plank. The results have also delivered a crushing blow to parties aligned with the old order. The Jatiya party, once a key ally of the Awami League, failed to win a single seat nationwide. Even party chief lost his traditional stronghold, underlining the scale of voter realignment in this election. And as results become clear, congratulatory messages are now pouring in from all across the region in the South Asia as well as internationally, with Indian Prime Minister Modi leading the message, congratulating the people of Bangladesh on a successful elections. And the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, among others, congratulated Tarique Rahman and extended wishes for stronger India-Bangladesh ties, and reflecting the regional significance of the outcome with the beeline that Indian ministers have been making to congratulate Tarique Rahman. With a commanding two-third majority, the BNP now faces high expectations. The new government will have the numbers to push major reforms, stabilize political climate, address economic and governance challenges. As Bangladesh turns a new political page, all eyes will now be on Tarique Rahman, how he translates the sweeping mandate into governance and whether this decisive victory ushers in long-term stability for the nation. We also have reactions pouring in. We'll play them in just a short while, but let me quickly introduce our guests for the show. Joining us on the show is Salahuddin Shoaib Chaudhry, editor Blitz Bangladesh. Also with us is barrister Mohibul Hassan Chaudhry, former Education Minister of Bangladesh, Ambassador Veena Sikri, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, and Suhas Chakma, Director, Rights and Risk Analysis Group. Thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out. Salahuddin, I want to come to you first. Mr. Chaudhry, what are you making of that thumping majority that BNP has got? 2 decades out of power, Bangladesh has given a thumbs up to BNP. What does it mean for Bangladesh's future starting today?
Thank you very much, Jatiya. You see, this massive victory, or in your words, a super victory of BNP, is a reflection of the frustration of the people of Bangladesh during the 18 months of the misrule of the illegal Yunus regime. The country has been devastated, economy destroyed, law and order nowhere, and the country has turned into a land of mobs and thugs and terrorists. So Bangladesh people have revolted against Yunus, and they voted in favor of Bangladesh Nationalist Party. At the same time, we should remember that the Yunus regime has not only destroyed economy, not only destroyed every institution of this country, it has also unnecessarily began a quarrel, almost a war-like situation with our friendly neighbor India.
Okay.
So people are annoyed. And finally, I'd like to say, Yunus is surrounded by the Islamists who oppose to rights of women, women's empowerment, freedom of expression. So this is a revolt of the people of Bangladesh against Yunus, against Pakistan, against USA, and all Western hegemonies.
All right, Barrister Mohibul Hassan Chaudhry, with towering figures like Sheikh Hasina and Khalida Zia absent from electoral fray, how does the Bangladesh's political landscape change from here?
You see, the incumbent government, whoever will go into the government from tomorrow onwards, will have a mammoth task ahead. As Mr. Chaudhry has said, the economy is in complete tatters. Social and political stability is not there anymore. Law and order situation is terrible. But most importantly, they themselves will realize that they have a very limited mandate. And therefore, the legitimacy will always be a challenge. Because the regime, the Yunus regime, wanted to favor the Islamists and had managed the election at least to favor them to their maximum capacity. And we have seen a lot of incidents where ballots were stuffed in ballot boxes overnight, and most of it was done to favor the Jamaat-e-Islami led bloc.
Okay.
But despite that, they could not succeed. But we believe that the new government will realize that they have a legitimacy crisis. A major political spectrum was absent from the electoral process. It's not just the Awami League. You've talked about Jatiya party. They have not been allowed to even take part in canvassing for their party.
Right.
And the regime actually hunted them down whenever they have gone to canvass for in their constituencies. So by excluding a huge section of the electorates, they cannot really sustainably run the country. So, of course, they need to now realize that what Yunus was doing, not just with India, but also with the people of Bangladesh, just focusing on rebuilding this pseudo tie with Pakistan and absolutely being dictated by the West, those who had promoted him, have not brought much good result for Bangladesh in general. We've seen an agreement signed with the United States just 3 days before the election, where they have literally given up the whole economy to the American corporates and have pledged to buy Boeing aircraft, which are not really needed right now in Bangladesh. But they've made all these pledges to their foreign masters. People are upset, but at the same time, there is a sigh of relief that at least a political government of a kind will now be heading, and there is a chance that they will be listening to everyone. They will be listening to what the people want, because they are ultimately accountable to the people of Bangladesh.
Absolutely. You keep saying...
Last thing I wanted to say, they have rejected the Islamists. even though you can see that they have gained some seats, it is only because of the absence of Awami League and other political parties. But the people of Bangladesh have rejected the extremists altogether.
Okay. You're saying there's some chance, Ambassador Veena Sikri, there's some chance that this could be a stable government. But come to think of it, the sweeping, thumping majority of BNP suggests that this is likely a historic mandate for the BNP. BNP is back after 2 decades. They're promising, good old change. They're saying reforms are on their way. What would prevent them from, running a stable government? Because they have the majority, they have the numbers now, and this is the mandate that Bangladesh was hoping for, waiting for. And also, what explains, Jamaat's sharp decline? They campaigned aggressively, but towards the end, they seem to have lost out.
Yes, I think that I agree with both panelists who have just spoken before me. I think, yes, the victory of the Tarique Rahman and the BNP is remarkable in its size. But of course, because the Awami League was absent, a lot of the votes that should have gone to the Awami League, there would have been a more balanced structure. But before the election, it was like convention and wisdom that neither the BNP alliance nor the Islamist alliance will get a majority, so they'll form a unity government, etc. That was being talked. But I agree fully also that the real problem has been that the Jamaat-e-Islami has been the power behind the throne since July 2024. They were handed over this power by the people who conducted the regime change operation, whether it is Pakistan or the Western countries. And Jamaat-e-Islami, in operating this power behind the throne, decided to go for an Islamist alliance. They earlier have been in alliance with the BNP in 2001-2006, but this time they deliberately pushed away BNP and said, no, we want an Islamist alliance. We want to show that Islamism can come to the forefront in Bangladesh. And throughout the last 18 months, you had a great focus on Islamism. There was a moral police. The women of Bangladesh were very dynamic, entrepreneurial, hardworking, and really fight for their rights. They were appalled because their safety and security conditions went down abysmally in the last 18 months. No security on the roads. There was a moral police telling them what to wear. They wanted to wear a teep. They were objected to, even to wear a teep. All that created a huge backlash. And the most recent remarks by the Amir of Jamaat-e-Islami against women just 3-4 days before the election, very derogatory remarks, really were the last minute swing factor, worked totally against the Jamaat-e-Islami on this point. And I think that really benefited the BNP. The second point is the economy. The economy in the last 18 months has gone into such total doldrums. Here again, the main victims are women, because it's the women who are working in the ready-made garments factories. In the hundreds of thousands have now lost their jobs because the factories closed down. Why? Because Mohammed Yunus didn't want to continue the economic trade with India. He put all kinds of restrictions, so the people couldn't receive the goods from India in time. They couldn't fulfill their orders. They lost the competitive edge, and the factories had to close down, small and medium factories. And all this had a disastrous effect on the people, because if they said that, look, you had all the power in your hand with no restriction at all, and you have not been able to control the economy at all, there's no law and order of any kind. So where is the safety of the people? How do we know that if we vote an Islamist government into power, that this will not continue? Naturally everybody was very worried. So I think it's a dramatic vote by the women, a dramatic vote on the economy factor, and these 2 or 3 things came together to make sure that the BNP got this massive victory. Now it is a great responsibility, and I think that as you know, our Prime Minister sent a very strong message, and he has also spoken to future Prime Minister Tarique Rahman. Maybe the swearing in is on Sunday, I think. And I think that one of the 2 factors I think that have immediately come to light, maybe that's a good indication. First, we had a statement from Tarique Rahman saying no celebrations. So in 2001, when the BNP came to power, there were these so-called celebrations which always descend into hooliganism, and the minority community was really badly affected. But this time he said no celebrations, we're going to be very sober, no hooliganism, and we just continue with our work. Secondly, I've just got a message, I think, from even from Mr. Chaudhary, that a member of the BNP has now broken the lock on the Awami League door, which had been put on the Awami League door by the Yunus regime to show that they're banned and they're no longer active. So if the Awami League is going to be allowed to come back into the political space, it's going to be a big difference, I think, for the future of political life in Bangladesh. And it's going to be a good checks and balances, although Awami League may not be in the in the parliament right now. I would like to also talk about the referendum. You are talking about the referendum as though it's a given. I must say that the referendum itself became a factor.
Absolutely.
Because there was no
I'll come to
authority.
referendum. I will absolutely, Ambassador, come to referendum. But let me also take a question, from Swaz Chakma. Swaz Chakma, Ambassador clearly pointing out there, as are other panelists, that it feels at the face of it that Bangladeshi people have outright rejected Islamist alliance. That they want a secular country, and that's what the mandate suggests. In the past 1 year, we have seen Bangladesh going through a whole lot of turmoil. Not just the fact that the economy has been left in ruins. There's also social fabric that has been completely destroyed. And you've talked about how minorities have come increasingly under threat. Do you believe that risk is now off the table?
Absolutely not, because the reality of the Bangladesh is completely different. And if you look at the statements or the manifestos of Tarique, the BNP, as well as the Jamaat-e-Islami, it's very clear that they do not want to give any rights to the minorities. They believe in equal rights, which basically means there is no special privileges for the vulnerable communities, whether it's religious minorities or the people in the Chittagong tracts. In fact, on record, they have said that they are going to review and annul basically the Chittagong tracts according to the CHT. And if they are not included, then obviously the Hindu minorities have no space whatsoever in Bangladesh. Obviously, they want to control the violence immediately because they are really backlash. So that's why I think they are giving the lip service. The main problem, at the end of this, still remains political, which is compounded by the economic problems. I think we have to bear in mind this is an unfinished task. The unfinished task has been created knowingly or unknowingly by Dr. Yunus, by banning the Awami League. Now, the question is, can you allow this situation to continue by banning the Awami League for a longer period of time? Is that something India can advocate? Is that something European Union or the United States which can advocate for a longer period of time, that you opposed one-party rule, allegedly, by the Awami League, and now that to be continued by the BNP without an opposition? Because Jamaat-e-Islami is not an opposition. They are a partner, and they have been reduced to 80-odd seats because Awami League is not there. Now, the biggest challenge, I want to play the devil's advocate. If I'm an Awami League activist, what will I do? I will first ask my ban to be lifted. And once the terrorist tag is taken out, of course, I have every right to question the legitimacy of the election itself, because I am not there and I am not alone. I'm talking about 40% to 50% of the population. And in this election, possibly, I would have won as many seats as the BNP had won. Because the Yunus government was so unpopular and they violated everybody's rights except the Jamaat-e-Islami. So now if you allow the Awami League to come in the political platform, from that day onwards, of course, Awami League will exercise its own political freedom, which the BNP doesn't want. Now, if you do not allow that political freedom to the Awami League, how are you going to make it? So whatever mandate people are talking about, or whatever the congratulatory messages being sent by our Prime Minister or anybody else, these are gestures which are required as far as diplomacy is concerned.
Okay.
But we cannot forget the fact that 50% of the population, people who brought independence in the country, we cannot, or nobody can allow that organization to remain banned. And if that is allowed by Tarique, and if Tarique doesn't allow, then the coming back of the Awami League, he's creating his own problem. So the biggest problem for Tarique is not only economy, is how is he going to deal with the Awami League? Now, if the Awami League remains banned forever, I don't think he's going to resolve the problem. And because economy is in a bad situation, and so many agreements have been signed by Yunus, which has in a way constrained the incoming government, now he doesn't have many options. His problems will start only once he takes over the country.
Okay. Barrister Chaudhary, what's the future of Awami League? I think that's the question on everybody's mind. I'm sure it's in your mind as well. But, internally, when you're discussing it with other party members in your own party, what's the future now of Awami League? Ambassador Sikri pointed out that it feels like the lock has been moved away on the door as far as Awami League is concerned. Do you see yourself coming back? in the political fray anytime soon? And while you answer that, I also have to ask you, what about the safety of minorities? Because there is a larger consensus here that no party has promised anything special as far as minorities is concerned. There continues to be a question on whether minorities will enjoy any sort of protection at all.
The future of Awami League is clear, that we are going back into the political discourse because one of the obstacles for us was the army's ongoing engagement in politics. After the election, the army cannot stay outside of the cantonment and they have to return. That is one major obstacle removed. Thereafter, the court system, where many of our activists are still in jail. As of right, they deserve bail. And if the court system starts to work properly, we expect all of them to be out on bail. And our regular activities, whether they lift the ban or not, we will be able to regroup, reorganize, and protest, even if the ban stays. We have withheld ourselves from any kind of violent reaction towards the election.
Okay.
We have contained our activists from reacting negatively, because we've seen that the BNP had done this in 2014, and as a result, they had lost public confidence and trust. We had taken the harder path of holding our protests peacefully, which of course the system did not allow us to do.
I'm not sure why you're calling it harder. I think it should be the only choice. It should be the only option, because that's your country after all. Why would you want violence on streets? Yes.
No, because if you are pushed to that limit, you would have no choice but to react. And when you react with your full strength, it turns into violence. Unfortunately, that is the nature of political reaction and actions, right? And that's what the BNP and Jamaat had been doing for a long time, which is why people kept them outside of the political discourse for many years.
Okay.
And only after the student uprising, they came into the front. Before that, they didn't have people's confidence. But for us, we take the political path. We want to focus on future building, reconciliation with everyone, but for the extremists who are a continuous threat to the region, to the nation, and to our minority citizens. We've seen it time and again, also in the past, during the time of BNP reign between 2001 and 6, from Chittagong hill tracts to the plainlands, all minorities, including liberal Muslims, were under attack. We do not want to see that happening again. Things like which are settled, Chittagong Hill Tracts Treaty, we need to see that fully implemented. We need to see these key reforms to be in order, rather than this so-called July Charter, which seeks to change the word secularism from our constitution, which seeks to create a Pakistan-like constitutional structure where Senate will have the say over the elected representatives and the president will have the power to dissolve an elected parliament, which is what we do not want to see. It will create a Pakistan-like constitutional structure, and that is something that I think BNP will have to look into as they will be in the parliament.
All right. My last question, for that matter, on the show, Ambassador Sikri, I have to ask you, you were talking about the July Charter and how it's being touted as a historic mandate of the people for constitutional reforms. But what about, the secular fabric of Pakistan's constitution that stands to be challenged by the virtue of this referendum?
Yeah, I think that the referendum has no constitutional status at all. The Bangladesh constitution does not provide for a referendum. So actually, this is just a myth created by the Yunus regime. They came in saying, we want to do reforms, so we're going to wait for 4 years, do reforms, and then have elections. They had no plans of having elections so early. It's only all the political parties who got together and then said that, no, we must have elections immediately. And so they were held on the 12th of February. But this charter, it's been created by a small group of people, right. Many of them, from abroad. They're Bangladeshi origin, but they're living abroad. And they've got constitutional reform, police reform, electoral reform, everything. Where is the mandate? Now that the BNP has 2/3 majority in parliament, it is up to them to discuss any issue, not based on the referendum. The referendum, I think, should be thrown away.
Okay.
Because they're showing a voting. I must tell you, I read that they're showing a total of just 1.5 crore people voting on the referendum. That's a very small percentage of the total voting population of Bangladesh.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
actually, this is nothing. It's like 14, 15%. So how does it become a document which will be, accepted by everybody and implemented? Not at
Absolutely.
all. I think
Absolutely.
the parliament has to look at it afresh. Because whatever they want to discuss, and I agree the points that Barrister Norfield has made, that they're very important issues: secularism, democracy, nationalism, social justice. Why do you want to change the pillars of the 1972 constitution?
Right.
And who presidential form of government? I think Yunus wants to be president. That's what it seems, and that's why he got it in. So why should it be discussed now? Let it be thrown away. And if you want to discuss certain issues in parliament, do that. And if you want to have change and you have elections after that, then people will vote on it. So that is the process to be followed. So I don't think the referendum is of any significance whatsoever.
All right, well, that's as far as referendum is concerned, but I think it would be fair to say today that Bangladesh has turned a leaf in its political history. Thank you very much, Salahuddin Shoaib, Barrister Chaudhry, Ambassador Sikri and Suhas Chakma for taking time out for joining us on the show.